Good morning, good afternoon and good evening to everyone wherever you may be tuning in to today's episode from around the globe. We are here at the High 24 show in Brisbane, Australia. This is episode number 4 of our High 24 show series, and today having an episode I've been extremely excited for and very much looking forward to leading into this year's show. A man in a company who needs no introduction. Many would describe Harry the Hirer as a leader and a visionary in the Australian event rental market, responsible for some of the country's most elaborate, complex and exclusive events. Personally starting his career in the early 2000s with now more than 20 plus years of experience in the event rental industry, being described by his operations manager as one of the most positive and passionate people I've ever met, conveying our guest passion as CEO, passion for the Harry's brand, and dedication to the exhibition and events industry as truly remarkable. I'm extremely honoured and more than thankful and over the moon to welcome the current CEO of Harry the Hirer, Gab Robinson. Gab, thank you for coming on the Rental Journal.
That was quite an introduction. You talk about my enthusiasm and positivity. I think you reflected it there, Michael. So very kind introduction. Was that Brent Derbyshire or Brett O'Hara?
Brett O'Hara.
Oh, very, very nice. He was my first manager at Harry's, and he showed me the way and was a great leader and still is. So I owe Brett and Mel Healy, who I think's actually at your show and one of the mentors to the women in hire. They were both the first people I worked with, and two great people at Harry's and two very loyal people.
Absolutely, no, lifetime team members, I'm sure, and very industry connected and very industry focused with their pursuit of the HRA. But Gab
and Michael, lovely people. They're good people, which is the most important thing.
That's right. Gab, a bit of a fun fact to kick us off. You're actually the first speaker I'd ever listened to at my first rental hire show, being so fresh to the industry, sitting there being truly amazed by the overview of your collective organisation, to the scale you operate at, the history of Harry the Hirer to where the Harry's brand is today. It was very captivating.
Yeah, it's an amazing business. Been around nearing 50 years, Michael. So next year, I think next year is our 50-year anniversary. So we're going to have to start looking into it and make sure we got the dates right, because that will need to be celebrated. But started off with no great plans, which we'll come to, I guess, later, but has grown into the business it is today on the back of the efforts of our people. Do a lot of fun things.
Gab, when you mention the name Harry's here in the Australian rental industry, it's quickly associated, like I said, as being the very leader in Australian events. Now with more than, like you said, over 45, reaching nearly 50 years in business, growing an extensive product line and growing an amazing team along the way, organically growing alongside the boom of the Victorian events market, quickly becoming the event capital of the world and resulting and contributing to the much deserved success of Harry's. In the initial stages, Harry supplied old army tents, plastic tables and chairs to cricket clubs in the local area, to now an absolute behemoth of an operation, which we were all lucky enough to experience. Gab, to kick us off, who is Harry the Hirer and the origin story of Harry's?
Yeah, well, it's funny. Harry the Hirer is actually the group of people who work for the business. That is Harry the Hirer. But if you ask about the founder of the business, Rick Jamieson, great man, started the business 50 years ago. I don't think he had any intention to create a business. It's simply one of those things in life that happen, and he stumbled, as the myth goes, and there's many versions, he stumbled across some old army tents, he picked them up, or he bought them, or he got his dad to help them bring him home, and then that cricket club wanted them, and from there some friends in the neighbourhood wanted them, and then if you've got tents, well, have you got a few plastic chairs and tables? And, well, I may as well get that. And from there, over time and having a commitment to doing a good job and not letting people down, Rick grew the business from incredibly humble beginnings, as most businesses are. To be honest, they might just start off as an afterthought, but somehow the magic happens, and over time it's grown from very basic start to over 1,000 people working across Australia and all the different industry segments that fit within the event and exhibition industry, which we can touch on because it's an industry separate from the machinery and plant hire industry. It comes with different characteristics, but very, very, very a fine business, a very successful business with great people.
Yeah, the organic growth has obviously been extraordinary and amazing. Gab, in 2024, what are your main product, services and customer base, your current geographical reach, having multiple warehouses and locations across the Melbourne area, but now moving more north into Sydney as well?
Yeah, so just to take a step back, Michael, so the party and event hire business was where Harry started, and so that is marquees and furniture, and then table settings, so kitchen cutlery and linen, and flooring as well, and then from there lighting and audio-visual equipment. And then down the track, we added the exhibition side to our business and other things as well. But the business's headquarters are in Melbourne. That's where we started all that time ago. And we actually moved to Sydney about 20 years ago. I was speaking to Glenn Bowl and Paul Elliott, who still run our New South Wales business, and they started about 22 years ago. And that was to become involved in more of the major events that New South Wales had back then, some golf tournaments, some racing carnivals, but also the business event or exhibition industry, which is a national industry that works up the east coast of Australia and through to Adelaide. And you can't just base yourself in Victoria if you want to service clients up the east coast. So we moved, from Melbourne, we moved up to New South Wales. So we've been there 20 years ago, really humming over the last 10 years due to the management team we've got up there. And we've been doing work in Queensland for 10, 15 years, but we, post-COVID, we had a need to open a warehouse up there just so we can get gear there earlier than we otherwise would in case trucks didn't turn up, which was the case during COVID. And some of our exhibitions were almost jeopardised with the delivery not being able to get there for reasons outside of our control. So now we're in Melbourne, obviously, New South Wales, 350 people, only a handful of people in the warehouse in Queensland, but we'll just see how that grows organically. And also an office in Adelaide. Adelaide is doing a lot of event work now. Adelaide's the up-and-comer. They've got the cricket, which they've been doing it for a long time. They've got Gather Round, they've got Live Golf, they've got the Tour Down Under. They've got a stack of exhibitions, and they've got a real culture developing around events and what that can bring to the state.
Gab, Harry's has quite the impressive resume, from the Australian Formula One GP, Melbourne Cup Spring, Racing Carnival, Commonwealth Games. Yes. The list really is endless. What are some standout events that you've personally been a part of, the best places the events industry has taken you, and some overall success stories of Harry's contributions to some of these well-known events over the years?
So when you think of an event like a Grand Prix, it's generally just a load of empty paddocks. And from there, from direction from the organising committee at Grand Prix and their engineering company, everything goes in to build what you see when you're there at a Grand Prix or on the telly. So from all the corporate entertainment spaces, all the public spaces, all the retail spaces, all the toilets, all the aircon and cooling, absolutely everything that goes into stage the event. And that goes in over, for example, 3 months at Grand Prix. So it's a very long and complicated and high-end build. It's then managed over the 4 days of the Grand Prix, and then it's pulled out over the next few months. So when we're talking about the hire industry, yes, we hire equipment, but we also install it, we maintain it, we pull it out, and we manage all of the client expectations associated with it. So we wish we could just hire something, someone comes, picks it up and returns it, and that's it. But there's a lot that goes into the event hire part of the industry. With regard to your question, I had no knowledge of the event industry growing up. I just fell into it by chance. But gee whiz, it certainly opens your eyes to an amazing world, because most people don't get to experience it, the high-end corporate hospitality at a Grand Prix, for example. So if you ask the amazing places I've been, watching a Grand Prix from those high-end corporate hospitality spaces, or VRC's Flemington Racing Carnival, or the Oz Open Tennis, or some of the agricultural events that occur around Australia in the regions you get to visit, or the exhibitions that you go to with that high emphasis on the marketing strategy being put into place live in front of you, where the brand can show off what they do and generate customer interest. They're just not environments that you're used to seeing. On the other side, you also have these these amazing parties at private residences around Australia, particularly in Victoria, which has these big backyards in the more affluent areas, and just some of those houses and the gardens they have, and then what they ask you to build in the backyard. You would not believe it. And just what goes on at those events with the level of fit out and the fine dining and the entertainment that's flown in from around the world for 3 or 4 hours. So they're the sort of things that you get to experience in our industry. And Harry's, luckily, working for Harry's, we are involved in most of those premium events. So we're very lucky to have a doorway into those worlds that would otherwise be off limits.
That's right. Gab, just before we started recording, I said that back in 2022, I actually had the opportunity of experiencing the Harry's facility and showrooms in Melbourne during my time in the HA's Young Professionals program, having such a contagious and welcoming environment from your amazing team, everyone coming together and pushing for collaborative success. It was very incredible. Gab, the events industry being so labour intensive, involving high pressure situations to deliver and to perform on time and to meet event deadlines. Gab, what's different about the Harry's team, this clear curated culture, and what sets Harry's apart? And additionally, from your perspective, what have been the biggest contributors to this success after nearly now, like you said, approaching 50 years in business?
It's not clear curated culture. It's not. It would be nice if it was, but no, culture's a far more messy and organic thing than that. You can have a certain vision or desire as to where you want to get to, but it's never that easy. But the starting point is employing the very best people we can possibly find. That's the starting point, because you might have an aspiration for a certain culture, but if you don't start with the right person or the building block, the foundation, then you no hope of getting there. So you have to spend a huge amount of time looking for the right person. And we don't look necessarily for capability or resume. We're more about finding nice people. Might sound very simplistic, but it's true. Just nice people, team players, good energy, positive, hardworking, humble, down to earth, and they're generally the people that thrive in our business. And then if you can couple that with exceptional leaders, and we do have exceptional leaders, and everything rises and falls on leadership. So you need very good people joining the business, and you need even better leaders who can lead their teams and model the right behaviours. Hopefully that combination is what leads to a great culture. And then from there, I think we just all learn from each other, Michael. I'm learning from people in the business all the time. Certain things they do very well, certain things you see that you don't like so much, but all of that helps to form the person you want to be and how you as an individual want to contribute to that culture. Harry Jamieson, who's the son of the founder, Rick, he's exceptional with culture, and he sees the good and the bad before most of us, and he goes about picking up on the smallest things and encouraging things that we want to see. So he's a very important part of that.
Gab, you've mentioned personality, humility, loyalty, and humour as being important to Harry's. There being no limit to where a person can progress within the business.
True. Yes.
And having an overall mission of togetherness, which I think is great. Something you mentioned last year at the High 23 show in Sydney during the Future of Hire panel was that you insist on as many people as possible continuing to collaborate in the Harry's HQ, not wanting to be separated, not wanting to be behind a screen from home, to continue to preserve the immense united force of your team, contributing to that overall mission of togetherness. Gab, how do you approach talent attraction and maximise the retention of your skilled and, in some instances, lifetime team members?
Wow, you covered off so much there again, Michael. Hopefully we can remember some of those key points you mentioned. But with regard to staying together, look, that is a very firm cultural element of our business, that we are one big team. We all work shoulder to shoulder with each other. We don't have hierarchy. We're all out there on the field at certain times of the year working together, and we all treat each other the same. And we all work together. So whether that be in a warehouse or whether that be at head office in Richmond, there are no offices. We're all together on the floor learning from each other. And we figure that together we will pick up on the positive elements we all contribute and all rise as one. During COVID, most most businesses had to work from home or made a decision to work from home or had to work from home because of all the restrictions. But Harry's, we were lucky enough by intention to be able to deploy over time our stock that was no longer being used at the major events to the health response. And we became a first line responder, which gave us an ability to work from the office. And so we absolutely took that opportunity because we knew that together we'd be able to get through it. And so that further established our culture of we don't work from home, we all work from the office and we all learn from each other. And it further strengthens the need to be a great team player and further strengthens the fact that we do work well as a team because we are all together. So we're building relationships all the time. We're building trust and confidence between each other. All of that's very, very important in the event industry because we build jobs under intense pressure, under very, very tight deadlines and high client expectation, with so many moving parts involved internally, but also so many other stakeholders feeding into that end product. And if you're not a great team player who's used to being around people, you're no chance. You're no chance. So that's the story of our working as one, as a big team. And why wouldn't you? Yeah, Harry. So our industry is a people industry. It's a service industry. So if you're not comfortable being around people or you're not able to learn the basics about being around people, you're not going to be, our clients won't want to be around you because they want to be around people that they want to do business with. So it all makes sense that we're all together and we're going to learn. If you're not a great people person, I probably wasn't at the start. I'm quite introspective and I like time by myself, but I've learned the value of people and them coming first. And I certainly am a team player and all that is possible at our business because of our culture and what we strive for.
Gab, in 2003, returning to Australia after a stint in Africa, frantically needing an engagement ring for your wife to be prior to your trip abroad studying at university of a double degree in law, after an initial interview of Harry's the very next day being on site, working a loadout and carrying temporary flooring panels.
You've done your homework, Michael. That is verbatim, word perfect. Yes, correct.
Moving into a sales management position in 2006 and now sitting in your role as CEO since 2016. Gab, I'd love to hear an overview and a dive into your journey so far after 2 decades in the Harry's family.
Yeah, okay. Let me just start by saying this title CEO is thrown around a lot and there's a huge amount of prestige about the title of CEO. It is, and I'm very lucky to have it. And I'll touch on why if I remember. But it is just I'm just one other member of the team. We all play important roles, from the people who build the structures or deliver the furniture or clean it in the warehouse, to in the office, whether it be in accounts or IT or managing sales departments or whatever role. It is just a role and we're all team players. And I truly mean that because there is nothing special about me. And in fact, the people around me are far more capable at what they do than I am. So it's just a very important point to make. And I'm very lucky to have the role because I get to work with incredibly capable people in our business. It's a real privilege because most of my time is spent with our senior management team who are very, very, very capable people. So I get it easy there and I learn from them. And it also opens a lot of doors, the title. It opens a lot of doors. So I'm very lucky there that people like yourself would happy to have a chat, or if we need to create relationships in our industry, having that title certainly does make my life easier in having a coffee with someone. So I'm incredibly lucky person. Now, back to my journey. It's not that exciting, Michael, my journey. I just, as you said, I did come back from overseas and I did have to, and by the way, that engagement ring, I bought the engagement ring in Johannesburg, South Africa, as a young fella thinking I'd get it, because it's the diamond capital of the world, thinking I'd get the best deal anywhere. I got ripped off like never before. It's meant to be a platinum band. Well, it wasn't. I think it's silver gold. And the diamond was meant to be some extraordinary diamond, but it's the exact opposite. My wife, Bernie, she's very, she still wears it. She still wears it, but gee whiz, I didn't do well there at all. Anyway, back to the topic. I was in a 1-year graduate program for ASIO because I wanted to be a spy back then, and I bombed out at the final stage in Canberra. But when I came back from Africa, I was in that year-long graduate program, and I had to pay off some credit card debt. So you're quite right. So I answered an ad for. I was looking for any job. One job was assisting on the rail lines. God knows what they were doing, and the other one was a manual labour at the warehouse at Brooklyn for Harry the Hirer. And it was in the Herald Sun, of course. I don't even know if they had seat 22 years ago, whenever it was. But I rang the number and I spoke to a guy, Ivan Saric. Ivan's still around, not in our business, but spoke to Ivan and he said, come down and we'll have a chat. So I jumped in the car, drove down to Brooklyn, not having any idea as to anything, but I just needed to pay off the credit card debt and pay the rent and what have you until I worked out what I'd be doing. And Ivan looked me up and down and, he said, look, you're in front of most people who haven't even turned up for the interview, and we just need some people to go stack the stillages with the structure beams, and can you start tomorrow? And I started tomorrow. It wasn't the structure beams, but it was working at the Heineken Golf Classic, and you're quite right, it was carrying 8x4 floor sheets in the wind, 100 metres from one end of the SCAF platform to the other. I'll never forget it, 8 hours of it. One thing led to another. Brett O'Hara, who you've spoken to, was sent down to Brooklyn because there were some issues there and he was Mr. Fix-It. He was working in the sales office. He'd moved from ops to sales, but he was deployed back to Brooklyn to sort out those issues, and he's got some very funny stories about that. And I just happened to ask Brett one day. I was back from the Heineken and I just said, Brett, is there anything else you need help with? Just so the point there is just showing a bit of working hard and just showing a bit of initiative. And that must have impressed Brett, and he must have kept an eye on me. And he said a few weeks later, there's a sales role being advertised in the office. And I applied for the sales role, and I was lucky enough to get the sales role. Again, Michael, not really having any... Back then, as a young kid, and I'm sure it's still the case now, you're just trying to pay your bills. You're just trying to get by. And you're just trying to really maximize. You're very selfish. I was very selfish. It was just, what can the business give me? Because you don't have any great plan of being at the business. You're in a transitory role until the next thing comes along. I'd been at uni for a while. I certainly didn't see myself working in this industry doing things like that forever. So it was really just maximising the benefits to me in the short term. So very selfish and greedy. But as you're there a bit longer and you begin to get a feel for things and meet the people, you start to think, well, maybe there's a future there. And so your whole approach, and the business cares for you a bit more as well. So your whole approach changes. So I started working hard and throwing everything into it, not with any great skill, and made so many errors. Had no idea. I had no idea. I was 25 then, so 4 years older than you. But you're 3 times better than I was as a 25-year-old, so I had no idea. Anyway, worked hard and got some good results, and then opportunities open up from there. So from sales role into sales management role, and failed so many times. So the funny thing is, and it's still happening, no one at Harry the Hirer is demoted. The opposite of promoted, demoted more than me. Still to this day, I get demoted. It's incredible. And I'm sure the guys listening who know my story will have a laugh at it, but it's very true. I must have been demoted from the sales role 3 times and told I was hopeless, and was. And then general manager, and then demoted from there. And even in senior management roles, these things are happening. But, you just got to keep working hard. And if your heart's in it, irrespective of what people think, you work hard and you try and prove yourself, and hopefully over time the truth comes out and you end up where you should end up.
Well, you've definitely ended up in a good spot now, Gab.
But there's lessons for that, Michael. Like, the people give up too quickly. So even if you're not prepared to be challenged and get off the floor and fight, I don't think you can get very far in the tough world that we live in today. Everyone has challenges. You got 2 options. Either you make a decision to leave, so you say, fair enough, you're right, this isn't for me, you leave and you try your luck somewhere else, but there might be a reoccurring pattern with that. And so every time you're challenged, you give up. On the other hand, you understand there's going to be knocks in life, and you get off the floor and you keep fighting and you prove yourself, and there's no hard feelings. And that's what's worked for me, and that's what I hope to model those behaviours at work and make sure people have a tough skin. And also for my kids, people say, well, what are your kids going to do? Or they ask me, what should we do? And blah, blah, blah. And they want a bit of career direction. Often the thing people say is do what you're passionate about. But you grew up in a family in the hire industry, and that may be a passion of yours, Michael. But I think a lot of people, they don't have a passion. They have no idea what they want to do. Work hard. My advice is work hard, get a job, and work harder than the people around you, and be loyal and committed, and see where it goes. I don't think you necessarily need a passion, but I do 100% believe that you have to work hard and prove yourself amongst capable people. And I think if you have that and you're a nice person and you have integrity and you're honest, generally the world will look after you. So there's a little bit of philosophy.
I think there's some impactful advice for everyone at all levels from what you've just described, Gab, especially for even people like your children as well, going into whatever industry they might be wanting to progress in. Gab, starting with the business in 2003, mentioning that the business at that stage was roughly only a couple of hundred people, with now more than 80,000 square metres of storage space and over 1,000 team members. Gab, what has been the evolution of Harry's over the years, the expansion, the growth, and the different stages that you've been a part of?
Yeah, so as I touched on, we did start off as a traditional parties and event business. So whether it be 21st at home or a wedding or just 100 plates for a function, and then that grew and became more sophisticated and elaborate. And as that was happening, that was probably 40 years ago, the Victorian event industry began to grow, and we grew hand in hand with it. And so I think we supported its growth, and it certainly supported our growth. And so the business, through supporting those events like spring racing carnivals, both at Flemington but also at Caulfield Racecourse and at Moonee Valley Racecourse. And then you had tennis tournaments, lucky enough that the Oz Open was here, and then the Grand Prix came from Adelaide, and the MotoGP came. And so Harry's all of a sudden had this huge volume of work because Victoria was the event capital of the world. That was all wonderful, but it was very seasonal, Michael. All the event work happens in summer. And so Harry's needed this huge workforce to deal with the spike in the event season in summer, but that died away from Easter onwards and didn't come back until the AFL, which kicked off around mid-August, September. So the evolution, the genius was that we added an exhibition side to our business through Paul Herman and his team back 25 years ago. Exhibitions such as what we're at today generally happen in the winter months. So we're in June now. So traditionally they spiked from about May onwards after Easter and went strong until the event season kicked off in September. So Harry the Hirer was lucky enough to become involved in the exhibition industry. And then we had pretty much a 12 months of work. You can then carry your people through. You can carry the experience through. And as I've sort of said throughout this, people are everything. They're your number one thing. So we didn't lose that experience. So that was, I believe, that was a major evolution. The major step in our evolution, moving from parties and events to parties, events and exhibitions. And as all that was happening, the production side of our business, which is lighting, AV and rigging, kicked off. It was very basic 20, 30 years ago. Simon Finlayson, who's been with us 30 years, has been pivotal to that growth. Productions used to supplement, I'd say, the parties and events and exhibitions. And probably that was the case until about 9 years ago, when not only do they support very well the events and exhibitions, but they've also grown into standalone events that they specialise in. So they've been their in-house provider at many major venues in Victoria and New South Wales. And they do standalone concerts and standalone activations, and they have a level of sophistication that ties into a tech-driven world. We have our own studio at headquarters where they can do TV and live streaming and broadcasting and Zooms, which incorporate 100 different stakeholders, incredibly sophisticated stuff. So the point is they do their own standalone stuff now, and they do it to the highest level in Australia. So we start off with parties and events, then exhibitions, and productions, which was a part of it, is now become its own thing. And if you ask me what lies ahead, well, you've got parties and events. We pretty much do all the major events that are in Australia, that work for our clients and work for us. So due to their good work, they're largely capped in what their growth is. Now, they'll continue to grow as we add and organic growth, but they've done such a good job that market's largely captured. I think when we look at exhibitions, there's been massive growth in our exhibitions market due to, again, the capability of our managers and their teams. Probably have 50% of that market, let's say 40 to 50%. So there's a lot of growth in that area, and I'm hoping if we keep doing a good job and allow our clients to do great work, that will continue to grow. So I think in 3 to 5 years, exhibitions will be nearly half of our business, exhibitions, conferences, business events. And then I think productions, which is just on an absolute roll, will in maybe 10 years be an equal size as well. They're already a third of our business, but I can see them becoming potentially the biggest part of our business, both through the different streams they can work in, but also the modern world, which ties into tech and moving imagery. So LED screen has become such a big thing as opposed to static signage, which is more of the traditional stuff. So that's probably the evolution and also where we see some of the future of Harry's.
You did quickly mention the fluctuations of the events industry, which I was going to touch on. Gab, what are you currently seeing as the largest issues event rental companies are facing in 2024? And I'm also interested in how Harry's does navigate these fluctuations of the events industry. Many event hire and rental companies are always expressing the difficulty of staffing from, like you said, moving from the busy high demand summer months to what I assume a slowing of projects through that June through to August period in Victoria.
So challenges, we'll come to people. Challenges, so we got through COVID. That was a challenge. And then we got most of our workforce back, which we can come to. But separate from that, more recent challenges, the first thing that comes to mind is the rising cost of doing business. Now, since we recommenced work following COVID, the cost of us operating our business has gone up 40%, which is an extraordinary figure. Given we resumed trade in 22 and we're 24, so that's 2.5 years, the cost of operating our business has gone up 40%. And we can't absorb that. So we've had to have very mature conversations with the industry as to how we can start to share those increased costs over a period of time, because we know the industry can't deal with it all at once. But that's been quite a challenge. We think we're through most of that now, but very difficult. And then a broader issue, more the economy, which the economy's been in quite flat. We haven't reached recession yet, but it's been quite flat, and that's reduced the amount of discretionary spend that's around. And discretionary spend flows into our industry, not so much plant and machinery, which is construction driven, but more so mums and dads and who might want to spend some money on a 21st or a wedding for their children or whatever it might be, or corporates with their marketing spends. They may have a certain amount they normally allocate in their P&L, but if times are a bit tough as they are, then that is one of the marketing and corporate hospitality spend the first thing to reduce. So if you ask for challenges, cost of doing business, definitely, and also just seeing how the economy develops. It's been a difficult period. Personally, I think we're through the worst of it. I know there was a presentation this morning where Mark Boris was suggesting that we mightn't see a rate cut until mid-next year. He would know far more than me. I'm hoping we do see a rate cut a bit sooner, and I'm confident we won't see another lift in rates. As soon as that starts to, people start to feel comfort around that, businesses invest more, mums and dads have more money in their pocket, and that part of our industry will improve. With regard to people, that was our biggest challenge once we started trading following COVID. So we went from 1,200 people to 50 people, and then we grew back to about 200, and we're now back to whatever we were pre-COVID, so something over 1,000. And we invited everyone back into our business who we had to stand down. Not everyone came back because they're capable people and got tremendous jobs, but most did. Anyway, we had to, at that time of re-employing, the construction industry with Victoria's big build was going nuts. So there was a real shortage of labour. We had no international travellers. People were earning very significant salaries in warehouses and in logistics. So we had to rethink how we paid our people. And you know what? They deserve it, but that came at a cost. So we had to change our thinking from, well, we used to pay them X, we're going to keep paying them X. That was not possible. We had to start going down a different path. That certainly helped in getting people back. We also have to make sure we have an environment that people want to be a part of. So no matter what you pay people, if Harry's isn't the place for them, or any work environment isn't a pleasant environment to be in, they're not going to want to work there. So, we as business leaders need to look in the mirror and make sure that we provide an environment that people want to be a part of. And I guess it helps working in the exciting industry like ours often is. It's not always great. It's very tough, and it is a service industry. But I think that helps. It does open people's eyes to things they wouldn't normally see. And just to finish off, if the team leaders aren't great people, then you're not going to achieve anything. People aren't going to want to be there. We haven't got it right all the time, but we're aware of what we're trying to achieve. The managers are aware of what they're trying to achieve, and they're trying to create those environments that people are really enthusiastic about working in.
Gab, I wanted to pivot slightly to a very defining period for Harry the Hire. You mentioned the dreaded COVID-19 years, going from a staff of 1,200 to just 50 people, a 95% reduction in your workforce. Not only Harry's, the entire state of Victoria and the collective global events industry being completely shut down overnight. Gab, run me through the emotions, the challenges you faced and experienced during this period.
I've largely forgotten, Michael, which is probably a good thing. There wasn't any overarching emotional memory. It was simply that this problem occurred and we had to work our way through it. It was as simple as that. I mean, we were about to open Grand Prix, and all of a sudden that didn't open and the whole industry fell away within 3 days. Our revenues reduced by 99%, and we had no idea what the future held. So what do? I mean, there's two options. You either you give up or you find a way through it. You band together as a team, you talk, discuss, get different perspectives as a group, and make the best decisions you possibly can. And you reassure your people. God almighty, you reassure your people, because there was mortgages, there was school fees, there was uncertainty around how people put food on the table. So when I think back, which I don't often, it was a bloody serious situation. But we took a proactive approach. Our people are proactive people. Our culture is a proactive culture. This certainly wasn't me. But our people started, so we have a few fundamental drivers of our success, Michael. One of them's relationships with industry or our clients, creating friendships. So we're very friendly with our clients. And so our people continued those relationships and were speaking to their clients. And through those discussions, we began to get a sense that there's going to need to be a health response, and what that might look like, and what some of our clients might need through that health response to try and keep their businesses going. So that got our product people thinking, and our creative sales managers thinking, and our operational and logistics people thinking, well, what if they need temporary testing stations in Victoria? Or what happens if we need vaccination centres? Or what might happen at hotel quarantine, and what might they need? And given our culture of the creativity and the proactiveness and the relationships, our guys got on the phone and we started to become involved in framing the health response, particularly in Victoria. So the Ring of Steel, you may have heard it. You got it pretty good in Queensland. But the Ring of Steel, they shut regional Victoria off from Metro Victoria. Now, not a good thing for our people, for the broader Victorian community. But as soon as we heard about that, and we heard about it early because of our relationships, our designers went to work, our creative people went to work, and we started coming up with very in-depth packs about what that logistical build, that construction might look like. And we also promised it would be very responsive. So guys, here it is. Here's what it might look like. If you need it, we'll be there tomorrow. luckily, they liked what we put together, and we could be there tomorrow. And so the Ring of Steel happened. And then from there, we built relationships with Vic government, and that then enabled so initially it was testing stations in big tents all around Victoria, and then it was vaccination and so on and so forth from there. So that gave our people a purpose. We got our staff from 50 up to 100, and then 150 and 200. And we were all out on the ground building these tents, and it gave us purpose and camaraderie, and it kept our business together. And then, so that gave us something to do for a year. It gave us 10% of our old revenues. It was a long time, we often forget. And then a few of our guys, Simon Finlayson and Bart Drew, who headed up our IT department, they developed a product called Smart Badge, which is, I'd say it was probably world leading, and it was all about room capacities and live tracking. And in Victoria we had mandatory spacing between people at 2 metres. So they came up with this new product. Again, wasn't so much a commercial enterprise, but it gave us purpose and it helped industry. And most importantly to me, it's a reflection of what our business stands for, that when the going got tough, we didn't sort of just give up and mope around to someone solve the problem. Our people independently just came up with ideas to assist industry reopening quicker than it would, assist the health response, and also this incredibly intelligent product of Smart Badge. So the COVID times, very difficult and incredibly hard on our people. But it reflected things in our DNA that we should, in good times and bad, we stick true to, which is our people first and foremost, because they are so impressive. Then it's their relationships with industry. Well, that helped even at those times. It's product, because we needed to come up with creative ways of deploying our product. And it's also the customer service, which we strive so highly for. We will be there tomorrow and we'll deliver you a world-class product. So we try and do that in our normal traditional business, and we tried to do that during COVID. So they're the things that stand out for me. For all those means, industry then eventually reopened. It was a bit of a hiccup because Omicron, is that what it was called? Yeah, so the Oz Open Tennis was meant to happen, and we put another 300 people on. Promised them we would never stand them down again if they came back. And all of a sudden Omicron came and the state was almost shut down. The government held its nerve. We got through that. Tennis happened, although it was reduced capacity, and then Grand Prix happened and we were off and running. And then we just had this huge 18 months of catch up where industry had confidence again, weddings that were delayed started to happen, businesses that couldn't hold their exhibitions started to happen, and industry just took off like never before. And so here we are now, 2 years down the track.
Interesting times, to say the least. Gab, Harry's did, like you said, shift into other industries, forcing a reinvention through adversity, repurposing your old furniture warehouses, live streaming studios, creating this new technology in Smart Badge, like you mentioned, producing 3D animation software for exhibition layouts and deploying these vaccination sites all around Australia. You described as being 10 years of learning in 1 year in condensed chaos that had forced your team to develop skills, resilience and ability from the unknown, having two options, to give up or to fight, and describing your culture and team as the fight, which I think says a lot about the sheer relentlessness of the Harry's team. Gab, obviously now, like you said, looking back, what were these main takeaways, how you developed your approach as a leader and your approach collectively as a company?
Again, Michael, very good summary. You say it better than me. Well, it's not, none of the leadership stuff's all that intentional in that context, but you learn to surround yourself with people, and you learn to share ideas, and you trust each other together to be able to solve any problem. And that's what came to the fore during COVID. We've worked together for so long that we could have healthy debate and discuss, and I won't speak for everyone, maybe they all felt the same, but I had a very strong confidence we'd find our way through it. And with regard to, I guess, the leadership things you learn is you learn you have to communicate regularly, frequently and clearly during it was a crisis, wasn't it? It's like a bloody war. So you have to communicate clearly so the broader business knows what's going on. I think you have to be realistic but positive. You have to be authentic. You can't be telling people porcupines. You got to truly lead as you're seeing things, and I think it just further established certain traits, basic traits that I've got, which is just you don't give up. You just have to keep moving forward and have confidence in what you're doing, and that for me came from the fact that I was working with really great people, and if it was a solo effort, we were no chance, but together. It just sort of happens. You just find a way through it together. And the end result of that is a wonderful thing, because it's like you've done something incredibly difficult together, which is what team building's all about. That's what the artificial things that businesses try and do, where you might do a Kokoda trail. Wouldn't that be great? Or just difficult things that get yourself out of your comfort zone. When you do that as a team, you come out of it with stronger relationships. And COVID certainly provided that, because it was a war. It was a war and no one knew how it was going to end up, but we fought our way through it. And so the relationships we had are now stronger than they ever were. And you know more about each other. You trust each other even more. So strangely, you learn a lot, as you touched on. It was 10 years of learning. I've forgotten what most of the learnings are, but it must be in our DNA. But also just the solidarity of the team, and achieving something like that, it puts you ahead. It's wonderful to think. Out of our 50 people in our management team, I think only 2 of them aren't with us now, from pre-COVID to post-COVID. We've added more managers, but how about that? And that's what enabled us to grow probably a bit quicker than others who weren't as lucky as us to hold on to their management teams in their entirety. We were able to. And so that enabled us to get out of the quagmire of COVID a bit quicker, because we had so much experience and belief and know-how that we could push ahead a bit quicker, which was probably why we're where we are today.
It was an unfortunate environment, but really solidified that team.
It did.
And really has built that Harry's brand for the better. So, Gab, Harry's has a very large commitment and very much a genuine approach to sustainability, prioritising having the initial product quality to be at the highest of standards to ensure a long lifespan. But once products reach the end of their life, they're in some instances repurposed, recycled and recreated. With an awesome example of this in your Poppy coffee tables and expand booths, mentioning that in previous years, the feel-good factor of sustainability was very prevalent, but potentially assisting in securing a winning bid of a green policy, but now very much shifting into a requirement. And additionally, us in the rental industry, we do provide and assist with this circular economy model, supplying multiple use products and equipment. But Gab, how is Harry's approaching this into the future of the company?
Yeah, good point. It was a bit, our approach was probably a bit superficial and more feel good as opposed to having substance, if I think back 3 or 4 years. But over the last 24 to 36 months, through Bernie Stevens, our general manager, Bernie's been leading this. He's just been doing such tremendous work and truly and genuinely transforming our business's approach to ESG. Some of the things you mentioned are more standard in our industry. We're a hire industry, so we use things hundreds of times. They're not single-use items, so that's a bit of a given. And yes, in our procurement of product and design of product, we have been looking to use sustainable products or previously used products in building our new items. I think most businesses are doing that sort of stuff. But the inroads we've made, for example, in we've got a custom build division at Harry's. So Harry's is mostly hire product. It goes out and it comes back. But our custom build division, which is a very big part of our business, is a lot of carpentry and cabinetry and signage, albeit a standalone department, but what used to be single-use signage. So in the old days, we used to build a really beautiful facility at Spring Racing Carnival, which is a lot of cabinetry and paint, and that MDF and timber works would be thrown away post-job because there was just no ability to recycle it. Well, over the last year, through the hard work of the guys, we've embarked on a joint venture with a recycler who will recycle over 90% of that product, and they turn into pallets and they're used overseas. And it's incredible. It includes the silt that comes out after they process it in the kiln. It includes the smoke. and the tar that is used in roads, a huge improvement because mostly hire and it comes in and out. But now we have over 90% recycling for one of the more concerning parts of our business in that space. Huge tick, which we're incredibly proud of. Bernie and his product team have recently developed a Harry's Go line of products, mostly for our exhibition business. So these are all sustainability, environmentally friendly products. So you can come to us at an exhibition. You can hire our Harry's Go products, and we give you a plaque. And so your stand is a sustainable stand, and you have a little plaque or sticker which says this is Harry's Go product. So it clearly shows the rest of the stakeholders in your industry that the exhibitor, are investing in environmentally sustainable stuff. So we've got all of these things going on. We're about to embark on signing on with ISO 14001, so all of our emissions and our carbon footprint can be tracked. That kicks off in a month, so we will have a clear reading in which we can share with our clients as where we are today, and we will every year improve on that, and that will be on the public record. And it's not buying green credits, it's actually changing our business, because we know how important it is for industry, we know how important it is for our clients, and also for the world. So probably the fastest moving initiative in our business comes out of that space, so very proud of it.
Gab, you've been extremely successful in your professional career and as a leader, and also being part of such a collaborative and successful team. But who have been some mentoring figures and main contributors to your success? Brett O'Hara, your operations manager, being alongside yourself for the majority of your journey with Harry's. Rick Jamieson, the founder, owner and past CEO of the company. What's the best piece of advice that you've received from a mentoring figure? Potentially words of wisdom from Rick, which you still implement into your approach to the daily success of Harry's.
It's a funny question because Rick teaches us in a very unique way. So I've been on the end of some very heated discussions with Rick where he's drilling into me what's important in life. And that really, they're the fundamental drivers of our success, which are people and product, service and relationships. That's what he's run his business on. That's what's made us successful. So I've certainly taken that on board. Rick's he's so uncompromising. He's so into the detail. He's so demanding that our business never lets up, and we're always pushing to be better. So that approach to life. When I think about lessons, that doesn't come to mind, but it's part of who I am now. Just being in our organisation that he has led, that's become part of who I am. Certainly starting off, as I touched on, Brett and Mel were my managers for the first 3 or 4 years, and so they certainly taught me everything I knew back then and introduced me to the event industry. But when I think about mentors, it's senior people at Harry's, it's my colleagues, it's more junior people, it's yourself, Michael, just things I pick up and learn from people, and the energy I find in people. That's what sort of always my ears are open to conversations and just picking up little bits and pieces from everyone I meet. Everyone, the guys. We're building a marquee in our warehouse in Richmond at the moment because we're doing some renos and we've got a launch for one of our clients in there. And the boys who are over there, they were on Smoker. They were playing rugby in the warehouse because we have a bit of open space there. And just seeing that love of life and fun and energy, which the camaraderie, that for me is a form of mentoring. I was thrilled to see it, and just things like that I pick up on, and I just try and get better every day. And those from everyone I meet, they all feed into that desire to keep growing. Separate from that, outside of the people, we had a leadership mentor come and guide the senior team at Harry the Hire 10, 15 years ago, Kirk Peterson. Kirk was very, very instrumental in my growth in that I had no idea what leadership was. It sounds crazy because my whole life now I feel I'm striving to be a good leader. But I was all about completing tasks, so getting activities done, getting something done and getting it off my desk and moving on to the next task. This was in management. I had no idea about people and that they were the most important thing. But through meeting Kirk and some of the things he spoke to us about, it opened that door into leadership and people. And then through that, it just became my hobby. And so in my spare time or when I'm training or whatever, I'm listening to leadership podcasts. On the plane, I'll be reading a leadership book. I'll be trying to learn leadership things from you and from people on the floor out there today, or from conferences or whatever it is. Just it all feeds into my desire to become a better person at Harry's so that the business benefits, and also through my family and friends, I guess, as well. So the leadership and the mentoring for those people, but also it's up to us as individuals to understand the importance of it, but then not rely on others to keep feeding it to us, but do something about it. So whether it be reading books or podcasts or those sort of things, or even having the chat to you today, because I don't really like doing these things. I say no to more than half of them. But what it does force me to do, Michael, is have a good think about myself and what I stand for, and it really crystallises my thoughts, because I don't come into this unprepared. I'll think about it for a month. I don't want to let you down, and nor do I want to let our business or the industry down. And so I think about what's important, and it just helps redefine what I stand for and what I'm aiming for in that leadership area.
Gab, you've said that you love the people you work and grow with, also placing a huge priority on your personal health, always up early to stretch, read, implement a daily exercise routine, and a 3:30 a.m. non-negotiable cold shower is said to create the foundation for your daily success. Prior to today's episode, I actually reached out to Brett, your operations manager, and asked the question: to what impact does Gab Robinson place on the overall success of the Harry's team and the Harry's brand? And this is a short soundbite from Brett. Gab's enthusiasm and energy levels are always running at 110%. This obviously rubs off on the people around him. Gab will always make the effort to get out on site and work with the site crew. Every year you'll find him leading the crew that build 50 marquees around the Albert Park F1 circuit the week before the race. The day after the race, he is back removing those same marquees. Gab is very measured and considers his decision before making them. Rumour has it that Gab was training to be a spy with the Australian and Security Intelligence Organisation. Maybe in that training resulted in his measured decision-making process. Gab, firstly, is there any truth to these rumours? And Gab, to close, how do you define success?
Oh, wow. Again, there's so much in that. So with regard to the morning ritual, and thank you, Brett, for those kind words. He's a good man, Brett. I've learned a lot from him. I'm often surprised when people don't want to get the most out of themselves, Michael. We're here for 60 years, 70 years, 80 years, 100 maybe if we're lucky. I'm planning to be here about 106 to 108. But why on earth don't we get the most out of ourselves so we can enjoy it and set a good example for others and lead a healthy and happy life? So, be physically fit, be mentally fit, understand how our mind works. So they're things and so then we can get the most success we possibly can out of life. Hopefully, if you have families, you can set the right example for your kids. So I've always been one who's wanted to get better. I'm never wanting to be stationary, maybe because I never think I'm really up to the mark, and I'm sure that's been the case many times, but also, from an organisational business perspective, if I've been lucky enough to be given this role that I'm in, I need to set the right example. So I owe the business to be as sharp as I possibly can be, and to invest as much time as I can in leadership and people, so I can, in this role, get the most out of it for the business. So that takes a lot of work. So I have to, so I'm up early, 3:30. I do read in the morning, mostly those things I said, but also to exercise, so I'm fit and healthy, and to meditate, which I do every morning, and then stretch as well. That just ties into the physical fitness. And the cold shower. So I read in a book somewhere about the cold shower 7 years ago, and I thought, oh, well, that sounds awfully unpleasant. Let's give that a go. And it's one of the worst things you can possibly do, mate. It's better up here. I had one at the Meriden this morning. It's lukewarm, not cold. But in Melbourne, in the middle of winter, it's bloody unpleasant. But life, I believe you have to do difficult things in life, right? Hard things. So that ties into the training I do. I never miss, even if it's very unpleasant weather or I've got a cold or whatever it is, because it's not just the physical stuff. It's actually pushing yourself to get difficult things and growing your muscle of willpower and determination, which is the most important thing you've got. It's more important than intelligence or whatever else. Being able to get yourself to do things you don't want to do. So doing a cold shower every morning, whether you've got COVID or whether you've got the flu, or I don't drink much, but occasionally with a hangover, you get it done and you teach yourself, whether you're running 10K or 20K on your ergo, you teach your mind and body, it's in your DNA that nothing can beat you. Nothing can beat you. So during COVID, I had that strong base. We probably didn't consider it at the time, but I have a strong base mentally and physically where I believe nothing can conquer me. So that translates into your work life. Nothing can conquer you. You surround yourself by good people, that's a big part of it, and believing in yourself that nothing will ever beat you, whether it's a physically draining thing, whether it's a complex thing at work, whether it's a huge amount of pressure at work, presentation or a big bid with a client you're involved in. You just get a confidence through doing those day-to-day things that nothing's going to beat you. So it helps you in every part of your life. So that's the sort of philosophy I have, and that's what's led to me doing all those things that you're aware of and that Brett mentioned. I'd encourage you to do it.
Gab, thank you for your valuable time, insights and amazing perspectives today on Australian events, rich history of Harry's and your development as a leader in our industry. Thank you once again for coming on the Rental Journal.
A real pleasure, Michael. Thank you very much for involving myself and by extension, Harry the Hirer.